We're standing on the on the beach, on the north-facing beach, at the carrying place on West Quoddy Head. The head is to my right, with a big lighthouse at West Quoddy Head with the red stripes, and that's the easternmost point of the United States. But as you come this way from the point, you come across this peat bog on the road, and if you come down here, you see that the peat bog is being eroded, and it's been looked at for a number of years. It starts off at the bottom as a, I don't know what you call it because I'm not a botanist, but the area down here, from about here down, was a muddy swamp with trees growing in it, and slowly the sphagnum peat grew up on top of it, so it starts to get into this material, light brown material, which is called sphagnum peat, and it's the kind of peat, it's called peat moss, and you use it on your gardens. You can buy it in bags at the store. And it gets its nutrients from the air and the rain and the air mostly. But this started out as a swamp. Now below this we have a layer of clay, and the clay is marine clay. It's mud that came out of the base of the glacier as the glacier moved back, and the water washed it out from the base and it settled out in the ocean. The ocean here again was 250 feet higher than we are today at that time, with the ice margin standing in the ocean. And the clay gets deposited out here, and the clay, however, sits on top of a material called till, and you can look that up in the map. And the till is material that's transported and deposited at the base of the glacier. It's usually characterized by having grain sizes all the way from boulders to clay, and the boulders and pebbles you see on the beach here are washing out from that layer, and you can see it down here. On top of that is the clay, so probably if you went down there a ways below the present level of the tide, you'd find till, and then you come up this way, you'd find the clay sitting on top of it, and then on top of the clay this material, and then on top of this it goes up. Now the bottom of the clay, bottom of this, down here at this level, where it rests on the clay, is about 11,000 radiocarbon years, and then it grades up to the present surface of the peat bog, and where the peat is still obviously still accumulating. If you notice, the lower part has a very mucky looking to it, very fine grained texture with trees and so forth growing in it. This material up here is entirely different. It's fluffy, it's made up of sphagnum peat, and there are no trees of any significance growing in it. Very different material. So the cliff goes along here, and it's being eroded back at quite a rate, maybe as much on the average of maybe 4 feet a year by the waves coming into it. If you go down into the clay, you start to find marine fossils. We can look at some of them here. These are shells I just picked up on the beach, and they're a form that lives in the high Arctic, central to high Greenland today, and it represents an environment like Greenland, and therefore when the clay was deposited, we again had a Greenland type of environment here that finally has warmed up to the present time. This is one way it's through these shells that we can get radiocarbon dates on the clay, and of course you can't get the clay deposited in the ocean until you move the ice back. So it's a way of dating the time of ice recession, because if you go to the bottom of the clay, which is the beginning of clay deposition, and you find shells, the ice has just moved back, the ocean has just flooded over that area, and the clay starts to collect. So that's the way of getting a handle on the age of the ice recession from this area. The problem here is that the road on the top of it is sitting on top of the peat, and the cliff is receding at quite a rate and starting to approach the road, and so the road is going to disappear within a few years unless they put riprap on the face of this cliff, as they have done over here to my left, where it did collapse and almost take the road with it. So the road is going to have to be moved, or the cliff riprapped. But riprap is a temporary collection of boulders that you can you know, put down here. It'll deflect the waves, but it's just temporary. Sea level is going up here every year, and every year it goes up higher. The cliffs, soft cliffs like this, retreat further and further. This peat bog used to be out here several hundreds of feet. You can go out there in the mud flats at low tide and dig down through the modern mud and you find peat. So the peat bog was way out there, and it's receded back to this cliff in recent years.